Welcome everyone to episode 7 of Behind the Mic, where we go behind the mic of all your favorite sports personalities or soon to be favorite sports personalities. And today we have a very special guest working a lot with ESPN Plus and everything around it, freelance broadcaster, also based out of Davidson, Forward Martin Ford. Thank you so much for joining on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Justin.
Of course, man. And for those who don't know the journey of Ford Martin, would you like to give him a little bit of a backstory?
Yeah, I'll try to give the cliff notes of it essentially. So I started my career pretty young. Really, my dad was a crew chief in NASCAR for Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer, Robbie Gordon, a lot of those guys throughout his career. And me growing up in the garage, opened up so many avenues for me. I had the chance to, if I wanted to be a crew chief, a spotter, a driver. I had many different directions I could have gone, and it all started at Nashville Super Speedway when I want to say in 2005. I was walking down pit road, and there's a pit reporter named Matt Yoakum, and he handed me the mic just for a picture. I got a picture with him, which I thought was so cool because I saw him on TV, and it led to a couple different conversations later down the road where I started following him a little bit more, and then a few years later, he invited me to be on his show when Tony Stewart Live, going around interviewing drivers, and I had the pleasure of doing that. And at the same time, I met into another guy named Mike Keith, who was the voice of the Tennessee Titans and who is now with the Tennessee Volunteers. But my mom arranged for a visit to go and see Mike Keith at the Tennessee Titans Stadium. I got a tour of it, and I've kept in contact with Mike Keith ever since then. But those two gentlemen were the reason why I got into broadcasting, which led to multiple different deals for me, NASCAR, and ended up where did some stuff at Motor Racing Network, did some NASCAR broadcasting, went to High Point at the same time. I was in school and graduated High Point University, which is obviously making some noise here as of late in 2018, and then eventually made my way up to doing a lot of stuff around here. I took a small break from broadcasting. I worked at Fox Sports for a while on their digital content side and got right back into broadcast, and now here I am doing some stuff with ESPN and the ACC network.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's just hearing like the different backstories of how people get into it. Did being a driver ever cross your mind when that opportunity was given to you?
Well, I was given an opportunity. I ran dirt wing carts for a few years and won a championship, but it was only like I was going up against I think like 10 other drivers. It was one of the newer divisions, but I still like to take credit that I was champion.
Yeah.
Um,
we,
and
we, ta- we take the wins where we get them. All right.
That's right. That's right. So then I eventually made my way and tried some legend cars or like these little 1934 Ford Coupes and ran the summer shootout series at Charlotte Motor Speedway and got my ass kicked. I think got my best sixth out of like 30 cars, but I think half the field crashed. So I don't know how I lucked into that, but that's I thought about it and then I realized I wasn't very good and I stuck with just running just go-karts and did that for a while. But primarily the only thing I have best out of that is doing iRacing online and sim racing, and I'm still it's pretty debatable if I'm even good at that too. But that's why I do broadcasting instead.
when you like years down the road, you'll just say like, "Oh yeah, no one crashed. I have no idea what you're talking about." But it's like just take
Yeah.
the wins as you get them. You mentioned High Point, and I wanted to say this because it's pinned on your Instagram as probably one of the more insane games you've probably called in recent memory. Take us through the double OT Yale versus High Point game because that was insane. It was an insane game back and forth.
It was a great game. It was a lot of back and forth. Yale and High Point were going at it. I mean, High Point, this is back, right around Christmas time, and Macy Spencer, the transfer from UNLV, had came in, and High Point had a bit of a rougher year, I guess, the previous year. I mean, they still ended up going to the NCAA tournament, but um, it wasn't one of their best years, and this year, Aaliyah Collins and Macy Spencer, those two kind of were a dynamite duo this entire year, and they're on a good roll. And a Yale team that has struggled, and Yale came in and was really impressive. They shot well, and it's almost getting crunch time, and Yale tied it up with just a few seconds left on the last possession, and that was a really cool ending, and then ended up resulting. Okay, we're going to the first overtime, and High Point had the lead late, and then they turned it over. Yale went back the other way, and they got a late layup and one free throw, tie the game again in the final seconds, and then they had a chance to do it all over again in the final seconds of the second overtime, and somehow, some way, they ended up coming away with they ended up tying the game, or at least that's what they thought, because it ended up resulting in they were probably point 0.1 if they had a bit of a shorter index finger.
I was gonna say
That should
just a
count.
little sooner of a basketball release, and that would have been a tie
Right.
going into triple overtime, which would have been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, that would have been pretty spectacular going to three overtimes because Yale did it twice and they were trying to do it a third time. So High Point held them off on the third time. But that was a spectacular game, one of my more fun games that I've called myself, and especially calling it at High Point. The crowd was really into it. The Yale fans that were there were really into it behind me, and um, not many times you get to call one of those games, so it was pretty fun.
I mean, anytime you get to call an overtime game, it's just awesome. Just because
Yeah, yeah,
it's free sports. I mean, what who says no to that?
yeah.
One thing to sort of piggyback off that, out of all the games that you've done in your career, what would you say is the most exciting? Like, what's your favorite game that you've ever called?
Funny enough, I would probably say this past Sunday was Duke and Denver. There was a top 15 matchup. Denver out of the gate scored three. Denver's Duke's on their heels, and right coming nice straight back was Duke. They came back and scored seven on enter in the second quarter. It was just a lot of back and forth, and the second half, you saw a lot of the defensive side of things, but just showing like, working with obviously a historic program in Duke is with lacrosse, and how well they have played here as of late in the past few years. And that was a really fun game just because the offense was on display. It was the number one scoring offense in the nation going up against the number one defense, and that was a lot of fun to watch, and the back and forth nature of it. And it was 75 degrees. It was sunny and couldn't ask for a better day. The crowd was into it. So I would probably say, and here's of late, I would say that's probably been one of my more exciting games that I've called.
Yeah, that transition from college to ESPN is a big jump, and you've been able to make that jump pretty smoothly. What was the one thing that was the biggest transition coming from the college, what you had to do on the college level to the ESPN level, which is definitely heightened and more professional?
Well, I think the biggest thing primarily is just it's a bigger team. You work with, this is not degrading college students by any means, but it's college students that have never done this type of thing before, don't have as much experience. And I think it comes down to that nature where it's a lot of just, hey, people just show up and they collect their paycheck and they go home. The biggest thing with, doing like a game like Virginia Tech and the NC State series I had this past weekend, this group they've been planning it the week before. Hey, this is when our coaches calls are going to be, and just the entire work behind the scenes. And I have a producer in Alex Blaylock who is fantastic and just communicates well with me and everything that I need before the games, and takes care of a lot of kind of get reaching out with the coaches, and it sets it all up for me. So then all I have to worry about is getting my questions ready and making sure I'm available at a certain time. And when the game comes on, I mean, it's all about, hey, here's all your graphics. Here's the graphics we're gonna choose for today, and what we can maybe come back with break with, so that I'm at least aware of what the graphics are compared to like a college school where it's just, hey, here's the score and here's a live shot, and that's about it. And I think that's the biggest thing when you go a lot of the schools to now doing a bigger production. It's a huge difference, it makes you better at what you do. And but you also got to appreciate the times where you're at smaller schools and maybe don't have as big of a team, but they do a little more by yourself because I think it's good to, help you as far as progress as a broadcaster and know a lot of the things, behind the scenes and what goes into it and a lot of here and there. But I think that's probably the biggest difference, just a bigger team and people that do this on a full-time basis and are not just there just to collect a paycheck or not just there just to, you know, make a few, you know, some experience that you work with the people with. But the biggest thing is just a bigger team and everyone's locked in.
Yeah, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. That's what I say. And having a good crew in general is just absolutely
Yeah.
key in any sort of successful broadcast. I wanted to bring up one certain thing is you brought up, preparation, getting your questions ready, and how production helps you out on the back end. Is there like a storyline or like a stat that you always look for going into every game when it comes to your preparation? Is there like one thing that you're focused on that if you know that, it'd be like, oh, that'd be great for the broadcast?
Um, I wouldn't say there's a certain question that I go for because you don't want it to be, or I guess a certain stat that I look for. I think the biggest thing is just certain trends that have happened as of late. Like obviously, where if I know I'm gonna be calling a team, a few months from now, I follow them on Instagram and Twitter and try to just keep up with, just certain behind the scenes notes that's going on. I think when you go, for example, and I use it because it's such a recent memory of the NC State Virginia Tech series. Um, I would look up NC State softball and look up their behind the scenes stuff and on YouTube. And there was a player that, hey, she tore ACL her last day of her senior year in high school and still went to NC State and came back, pitched good for her first year and tore ACL at the end of the year and she didn't make a whole another recovery again. It was a huge challenge for her and it was a whole full documentary on him. And those are stuff that I try to look for. And she came back and pitched a couple months ago, which was a really cool, just a comeback story. So I think really is just finding, I guess to answer your question, just stories of that nature where hey, this is a battle that a certain player went through, and you're not just covering the hey, Virginia Tech's won three of their last five, or it's NC State is hasn't beat Virginia Tech since 2015, in a series that is, and I think those are stuff that are obviously little notes you can mention at the beginning of a broadcast, but it's like finding little things um, that you really have to go and dig deep for. It's all about the rabbit holes that you'll be sent on when, I just start with just looking at the website, go back and look at their Instagram pages, things that I remember and that I kind of favorite and go back and look at. Those are things that I pretty much do. So to answer your question, it really just depends on it's a case by case basis but I like to really talk about whether it be a comeback story or whether it be one of those type of feel good stories that especially in baseball where it becomes more conversational. It's not just hey here's the 1-2 pitch or hey swung on and missed for strike two. Like it's not it's beyond that. It's about finding that, talking to my partner, hey, before the game, these are some cool storylines that we can work in, and they at least know what I'm going to be talking about, what I could be setting them up with, so that they're prepared with it. So those are the stories that need to be told, and they're great. I mean, they may have been repeated once before if you watched the NC State game, but hey, you have a whole new group of fans for Virginia Tech fans that have no idea about this young lady's story, and those are important to tell.
Yeah, we mentioned broadcasting how, if everything, is perfect because of the crew, you know, it, it's really good to have, everything planned out, but sometimes it doesn't plan out. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the most challenging broadcasting moment you've ever had? And, your like what went wrong moment for your career?
Well, I go back to a game I called a few years ago. I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was a high school game. I want to say I forgot who was playing in it, but I think it was a football semifinals for high school football, and I was in the broadcast, and one of the top players, I guess, had a name that was just so hard to pronounce. I couldn't pronounce it to save my life, and I think it was about halfway during the game. I think we're doing a commercial break. I had a mom call me, or mom called the broadcast and then let me know that, hey, my son's last name is pronounced this. Get it right. And she was frustrated. And that was definitely a moment that I had and of like, okay, all right, well, now I know how to say it. But the fact that she somehow got our producer's number, contact, I don't know, and he's like, hey, this is an email or phone no text message we just got. It's pronounced this way. Pronounce it correctly. You've been pronouncing it wrong all game. Apparently, her and her entire family were all frustrated listening to me. And I mean, we're high school broadcasts because we're not going to be given an entire pronunciation sheet. So I'm having to ask. This is before you can go and ask Chat GPT
Yeah.
name. I mean, I'm going on Google saying, how do you pronounce it? So I thought it was this certain way to pronounce the name. And apparently I was dead wrong. And I was not even close compared to what Google told me. So that was a moment that really, that has always stuck out to me over the years.
I've never been threatened by a parent, but I have been like, there have been complaints been thrown towards our way, because I guess like, oh, like, you weren't highlighting my son, and I'm like, your son wasn't starting, and but stuff like that. It's really interesting, especially during high school, like the more preparation you have to do because the less you are given. You mentioned that earlier, just being able to be versatile and do multiple things because you're limited compared to the heightened staff when it comes to the higher levels. I wanted to ask you, it's a you've called all these sporting, all these sports, all these fantastic plays. If there's one sporting event that, bar none, you could call, what would it be? It doesn't even have to be a current one. It could be something in the past, like a famous sports moment,
Uh, you talking about just an individual moment or just like a sport in general?
like a sporting event, like something like the Olympics or something like that.
Oh, you could put me in for the Daytona 500, and I can call that without a question. I know I grew up in the sport. I know everything about NASCAR. You can put me in for the Daytona 500, and I can call that with ease. With very, if I had to be inserted into a broadcast right now, um, I could do that event no problem. That's one I feel very confident that I can do just based on the experience, and I feel like I can go and call a Stanley Cup final. Those are two ones that I felt like I could be plugged into. I love hockey, um, love NASCAR, obviously because I grew up in it. But those are two that I feel like I can do plug and play, but more so the motorsport side.
Yeah, I mean, especially Stanley Cup, it's going to be tough to live up to Doc Emmerich. And speaking of Doc Emmerich,
It's you. No one could beat
no one.
Doc.
I've had some people even say that he's like the goat across all sports, and I
Yes.
don't hate that take. But I want, speaking of Doc Emmerich, we mentioned Mount Rushmore's a lot when we're on these episodes, and I wanted to get your opinion, not your all-time Mount Rushmore per se, but what is Ford Martin's favorite four when it comes to his Mount Rushmore? Who are your favorite four sportscasters?
Oh wow. Um, that's a good question. I think obviously without a doubt, Doc Emmerich is at the top of the list. I love Doc Emmerich. I'm always a big fan of Alan Bestwick for all the work he's done over NASCAR and through the years. He did some Yukon women's basketball, but just Alan Bestwick was always someone that I grew up with and who's my favorite, one of my favorite NASCAR broadcasters. There's so many great ones out there. I think Mike Keith, obviously, just from the Tennessee Titans for a long time, I got to listen to him throughout the years, the touchdown Titans. Then when he went to the Vols, it was always hard to listen to him say touchdown, big orange. I want to say the first game that he called for the Vols on radio, they were playing, Tennessee was playing Syracuse last year. And I just a liver, I think I heard a little bit of like touchdown, like almost
he,
the almost got in there.
he had the whole back.
Big orange. So we had to fix that. So I think I sent him a text message on that. But Mike Keith is up there. I think I would. It's so many ones. I mean, between Tarico, Buck, Jim Nantz. I'm probably going to give one that not many people would expect, and I would say Andrew Catalon.
Ooh,
From
okay.
yeah, I'm a huge Andrew Catalon fan. He's not the number one guy at CBS. He's not number two. He's right there at the 3-4 position with Kevin Harlan. Andrew Catalon, when it comes to football, that is, Andrew Catalon, I think, is without a doubt in my top four as far as broadcasters. I think he's so knowledgeable. I think he brings the right amount of excitement into a game, and I always get really excited when he's broadcasting a Titans game, or obviously he does some stuff with the Masters. Just did March Madness, and I really really appreciate the work that Andrew Catalan puts in. So, and then you have like a log jam of Tarico, Buck, Kevin Harlan, a lot of those guys that are right there below. But those are my four: Beswick, Doc Emmerich, Mike Keith, and Andrew Catalan.
That's the first time I've heard Andrew Cowell, and I think that's a really good one. I still think he's underrated in my opinion.
I
I
completely agree.
I love when he's on broadcast. I wanted to ask you because you've traveled a lot. You've especially shown videos of you traveling to do 3 games in a day. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you to do a different Mount Rushmore, but what is Ford Martin's Mount Rushmore of foods he's had? What's your Mount Rushmore of meals?
Mount Rushmore meals. Okay. You might have to edit this to chop it down because I do just at it. Um, Hibachi is, I mean, can we say that's coupled into one?
Yeah, I would say
I
so. Yeah.
I love hibachi. Um, I have to drag my wife a lot of the times to go because we eat it too much, I think. So
Do you, do,
hibachi
do you
is
try and like interact with the chef as much as possible?
yes, I'm that an extrovert. My wife is an introvert, and she absolutely hates it when I interact with anybody publicly in front of other people. So I think more so I do it now to embarrass her, but definitely hibachi is way at the top. Um, as far as foods we eaten, because I mean, I personally, pot in my head was Chick-fil-A as far as a chain, but we can't do chains. But
Chick-fil-A is pretty good though. I
yeah,
will
I
say
mean,
you can't go wrong with Chick-fil-A. If that's on your Mount Rushmore, that's not a bad spot on the Mount Rushmore.
yeah. Wow, you put me in the spot. I don't think anyone's ever asked me like my top four foods I've eaten. I mean, I would. Okay, so I would go hibachi is number
Okay.
one. Number two, I would go with spaghetti. Is my wife makes the best spaghetti that I've ever had. I hope my mom's not listening because she makes. I think Jess has gotten right up there with her. Number three is I'm a huge pancakes fan,
Ooh, are you
and
pancakes over waffles?
no, I'm more of like
Okay.
a strawberry pancakes
Okay.
type of guy with eggs. No shame, I'm a huge IHOP fan. I love IHOP. I think they have the best pancakes. I know I will probably get killed for that. IHOP pancakes are without a doubt the best in my opinion. So I'll give me all the heat. I don't care. So yeah, so it's hibachi. What we got? Hibachi, spaghetti, pancakes, and French fries is number four. And the best French fries is without a doubt Bojangles.
Really? I've
Yes.
never I've never heard anyone say that about Bojangles fry. I also never had Bojangles personally, but I've heard
Bojangles.
nothing but great
The
things about
only
them.
problem with Bojangles fries is it's very hit and miss, but when they hit it, it's perfect. Because sometimes they're a little soggy and it's not what you would expect with the seasoning. Because look, I bought the Bojangles Cajun fry seasoning, and I have it. We put it on my other stuff when we cook. So Bojangles is right there. Number two is Cane's. I'm sorry, McDonald's, then Cane's, and then Chick-fil-A. So those are my top. So I'll eat fries for
Yeah.
days. Probably too much.
Oh,
My cholesterol
absolutely.
wouldn't like that, but uh, I'll eat it for days.
Yeah, I think there was a time where Wendy's was also like they had really good the sea salt fries, and then they got rid of them. Why? Who knows at this point? But there was a time where they were creeping into top French fry territory, and then they just reverted back to cardboard. So
I agree with that.
so
I agree with that.
so I don't know what happened with that, but it happens. I want
I
first
agree.
off.
I think obviously I haven't had it forever, and I'm really ashamed that I haven't. But it's Five Guys is really good too. Um, and there's another place that I'm blanking on,
I will
but
say Five Guys is in my backyard. I can have it. Like it's only like a five
yeah,
to 10 minute drive for me, which is wonderful. I can get it whenever I want it. So
yeah. It's I need to go back and do it because I'm not sure. Do they still do the bags like
oh,
a dry bag? They
so
still do that?
actually Fun fact: this episode's gonna air a little later than when we record it. But when I went to Five Guys, I think 2 weeks ago, they don't do the cups anymore. They do like one of those like French fry bags that you would see at McDonald's for like the smalls. So I think there's so they realized like okay, people are getting way too many fries, so they went from cups over to like the little like French fry pockets. So I thought that was interesting.
Okay, okay. It's been I think like 5 years, 5, 6, 7 years since I've last been at Five Guys, and I'm ashamed of it. But I need to go try. I need to go back and do that again.
Well,
Time
while we're on the topic, what's your go to Five Guys order? I mean, we got to know it now.
I think it's a double cheeseburger, lettuce, tomato, mustard, ketchup, um, and they still do grilled onions because
Yeah,
usually yeah, grilled onions on it. So that's my order with the fry.
it sucks because I love the taste of onions, but I'm a texture guy, and I can't eat grilled onions under any circumstance. My body will just like reject it. So that's why I've been getting into like crispy onions on stuff, which is actually really good if you like make it around a meal.
Yeah,
But
it's not for everybody, but
yeah,
I mean I didn't get into onions until way late in my life. But I now make it almost every meal now that we have it.
yeah. Oh, if you ask 10-year-old me about my Mount Rushmore, it's chicken fingers with fries, chicken fingers with fries, chicken fingers with fries, and chicken fingers with fries. I
Valid.
was a very picky eater when I was younger, but again, Ford, thank you so much for hopping on. This was a blast. I wanted to, wrap this up with just one more question.
Yeah, yeah.
Going back to broadcasting, for those who are getting into the field or like are like hesitant of getting into the field, what's the one piece of advice you would give to those people today?
The one piece of advice I would give for any young broadcaster is accept every opportunity. Never turn down anything, even if it's a sport that you don't know much. Learn it, study it, because you never know when someone might be listening to you. It might be the head of talent at CBS, their daughter is playing, and you wouldn't know. And their daughter's playing women's lacrosse, and you accept the opportunity. You call the game, and they're like, "Hey, this guy's pretty good." You never know who's listening. You never know the person that hires you. He might get accepted from a job from he might be at a small college like in a Livingston College, and then he moves his way up the ladder. You stay in contact with him. Stay in contact with every single person you make in con that you meet, and you never know what sort of move they make up the ladder, and they might be at a bigger school. I know I have there's somebody that I know that was at a smaller school, and now they have really moved up the ranks, and they're up there with a big SEC school, and I've kept in contact with them, and they've done phenomenal work, and that's important just to be able to stay in contact with those people, work hard, and again, you never know who's listening, so accept every single opportunity you can possible. If you don't know the sport, study it, learn it, go all out. And the second biggest thing is you got to want it. You got to want it bad. And that involves if it's meeting somebody, if you live in, 2 hours away from a certain person, even if you think it's going to be a meaningless conversation and it will be a 10-minute coffee chat, do it. It's absolutely worth it. It might suck waking up at 4 a.m. to drive down to meet someone for coffee or, staying up late to go meet somebody. Like, you never know where that opportunity can go because you got to set your foundation as a broadcaster. I did that multiple times. I would drive down hours just to go meet someone for a 10-minute coffee conversation. And I don't drink coffee. I acted like I drink coffee. So you never know where those opportunities are going to go. Talk with everybody you can, make connections, network as much as possible because in this business, it's about who you know and getting those opportunities because there's so little positions and there's a lot of broadcasters. You never know where the person and the connection that you make, and it might lead to somewhere that you don't even expect.
Yeah, you pretend to sip the coffee and then you just spit it out once the conversation's over. Like, oh god, that was terrible. I'm not.
I
I'm,
I have mastered making drinking coffee move.
yeah, I'm not a big coffee guy myself. So yeah, I'll go for coffee. Sure, I'll just be chatting
Yeah,
the entire
yeah.
time. I'll sip a tea and then we'll call it a day. Again, Ford, thank you so much for hopping on, man. This was a absolute blast. If you want to plug your socials, this is the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Ford_Martin_, and then on Instagram and my YouTube, it's Ford Martin TV as in television.
Awesome. Again,
TikTok, same thing for TikTok.
oh
Ford
yeah,
Martin.
that is true. That's how I found your content too. So I will say, like, going into TikTok, going into the broadcaster space recently, and you get recommended a lot of very under the radar broadcasters. Kind of the reason I wanted to start this podcast because there's so many people that I look at and like these guys are barely getting recognized. I feel like there's talent, and I feel like you're especially one of them, especially at your level, the professionalism you have in your calls. It's awesome. Again, thank you so much for hopping on, man. It was a blast.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate the invite, and this was great.
Yeah, and that will do it for episode 7 of Behind the Mic. We will see you guys next week for another episode of Behind the Mic.